Hello, you guys. Welcome to this week's episode of the Expand and Evolve podcast. I'm so happy you're here. Today, I wanted to speak about unrealistic beauty standards and are we being part of the problem or the solution as women? Because ultimately, this is on us to decide whether we want to participate, contribute, and if we even like the trajectory of where this is going. And I was having a conversation with a friend and it was just like, she was like, well, when does it stop? And I was like, that's so true. Like it doesn't stop. I always do this. I took a deep breath first too, because I just ran up the stairs to get up here and I'm still out of breath. Anyways, I wanted to have a very open, real conversation about this. And I want to preface it by saying, this is not shame or judgment or any of that for people who decide to do Botox, don't do Botox, have filler, don't have filler, get boob implants, not get boob implants, do fat transfer, do skin, I don't know, there's so many things these days, like skin transfer, fat transfer, decide to do something with their jaw, not do something with their jaw, chop this off, not chop this off, facelifts, no facelifts, like it's whatever the thing is. This isn't about judgment of right or wrong, good or bad. This is just an open, honest conversation because ultimately as women, like we have the power to choose. And I just wanted to bring thought to this and have a conversation about like, how do I say this? Like just to bring a conscious awareness to the full picture, because I think we can be a part of this just as consumers, that we're not even aware of the conscious choice that we have in this and the implications and the impact of our choices. And so what I want to first say is ultimately the unrealistic beauty standards that we're dealing with right now stem from what we have seen on social media. And so whether a lot of that came from, like, I think filters played a huge role, obviously. Like you can edit your photos, you can Facetune your photos. I didn't even know these things existed before, but you can do all these things to your pictures to create this false perception of perfection and beauty. And so that has created these beauty standards that are unattainable and not real, but there's so many women attempting to attain them. And so there's a bunch of women out in the world, most of us feel this, of trying to chase this image of perfection. And ultimately it's like, once you're chasing it, when do you get off? Because there's always going to be something to fix. Like if you start with a nose job, for example, okay, well now you've minimized your nose and you're like, oh, well, now it looks like I could make my lips a little bigger. I could like raise my eyebrows a little bit. Or like if I'm seeing this too, like, oh, let's just give you an eye lift. Let's just like put some Botox and we'll give you an eye lift. Or the people who are doing the stitch thing to their eyes. And it's like, I went and I'll start also by talking about my story as well, just as like a open conversation and dialogue about all of this. But ultimately, you guys know on this podcast, I'm like, I want you to expand, evolve, and grow into the most amazing human that you can be, to your higher self, you could say, into like the queendom that you should be living in. I've been reading a lot and like listening to a lot about like high priestesses. And I'm just like, all of that, like you to truly feel that you embody love, that you truly feel worthy of achieving all of your desires, and that you know that you are enough exactly as you are, who you are right now, and that you're exactly where you're meant to be in this realm of your own personal journey. So again, if you've chosen to have Botox or filler or not chosen to have it, that's not really what this is about. It's just like bringing conscious awareness to this thing that is so prevalent. And because it has become so prevalent, is making other women feel like they need to do this too. And so that's where I want to bring that conscious awareness to. And then of course, discuss like my own journey in that and like what has led me to feel the way I feel right now. I don't even know what I was talking about before. Anyways, let's go back to my story. Okay. So it might've been like 5 years ago, maybe. And I was at a facial appointment. I'm seeing everyone getting Botox. I actually remember being in high school and one of my older friends saying, because she worked at the dental office, saying that she got Botox because it was preventative. And I was like, oh, what? Like, what is that? Like preventative Botox, like you can prevent aging? I'm like, oh, whatever. I don't know. Totally out of my awareness, not really thinking about it. Okay. But that's like probably when I was 16-ish. Then obviously I get older. I have babies. If you guys have had children, you know, we look a little rough and aged, okay? Because we don't sleep and our kids suck all our nutrients out of our boobs and it's like a whole thing. So looking a little aged and tired after baby 1 or 2. I can't remember which one. And so anyways, I think it must have been after 2 because I got Botox and I wouldn't have done it when I was breastfeeding. Anyways, okay. So I go to an appointment and I decide to get Botox for the first time. And because I'm there and they're talking about how it's preventative and I could totally do it because I'm noticing fine lines and I can just freeze it. And so I go, yeah, sure, let's do it. Okay. Zero conscious awareness to what I was choosing to do. I just did it because it was recommended to me. And I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. I'm like getting a facial, whatever, stick me. Okay. So I get Botox and I'm just like, okay, cool. Like it's new. It's kind of exciting. It's like fun. I get home and like later that week, I noticed my eyebrows are like, it wasn't super spocky, but like I could tell it looked a little different. I wasn't loving that when I expressed my face, the way it moved. I started noticing in like a couple months after when I would smile in pictures, I was like, why do my eyes look like that? Like they're so like squinty and they just like my smile looks different. It just looked different. And I just went, I don't know. Like I'm not loving it. Okay. So I kind of complain and I'm like, this is happening on this side and I don't really like it. And she goes, okay, I'm going to send you this other place to get it fixed. And so I go to this other place and he's like, oh yeah, no problem. I'll fix it. And then he brings up, this is in South Surrey, by the way, and he brings up the lines right here. I'm going to throw it out here. I must have been maybe 27, 28 at the time. Like I'm whatever I'm not even 30 yet when this is going on. Okay. So I'm young. And he's talking to me about how I could add some filler here to pull up my cheeks in order to not have these lines. And I'm going, holy shit. I'm laying there and I go, this is how it starts. I'm laying in this man's chair and he starts picking apart my face and everything he could do to fix it. And I went, oh my God, like this is how women get sucked in so deep into feeling like they need all of these things in order to look better, look perfect, meet beauty standards because there's all these things wrong with their face. And I went, this is so effed up. I am never coming back here ever again. Like I was so mad, I think, for women everywhere who have sat in chairs like that because like, oh yeah, I'm just going to like minimize my fine lines. And then they sit there and like, oh, and we could do this and we could do this and we could do this. And it's like, sure, why not? You're wanting to have your face perfect and beautiful. Like you think I should do that? Sure. You give your trust away to these people to tell you what you should do to have a better face. And so I left there and I went, this is so messed up. This is so messed up. I can't believe I'm like literally not even 30 yet. And he's telling me to fill my cheeks in order to pull them up, in order to get rid of my smile lines. Like, can we just think about that for a second too? That we like want to minimize the fact that like, oh, we have eye wrinkles and oh, we have smile lines, like, ooh. And it's like, that's a good thing. Like the one thing that I did love about Botox is that I was always like this, like when I focus, when I think, I do that. And it's what is called like a furrow brow. Anyways, when they froze me here and I couldn't do that, I was like, oh, migraines, it was gone. And it was like, there were things that were enjoyable. Like I'm also not saying that it looks bad. Okay. So I'm like, I'm not trying to attack anybody here. There's people who it looks great. Your lips look great. Your cheeks look great. Your eyes look great. Your frozen forehead looks great. No one's trying to shit on the fact of if it looks good or bad either. I'm just talking about what are we contributing to as women and what role are we playing in making people feel like they need to chase this image of perfection? Because ultimately, if you are are you part of the problem or the solution? Right. And if you are partaking in anything fake for that matter, like, and I could say the same, like I'm wearing makeup and I have my hair and like like I could be partaking in unrealistic beauty standards too, just by wearing makeup and doing hair. And it's like, okay, so where's the line of what we feel is like good versus too much? But for me, I draw the line at like, yes, I'm happy to do some makeup. I'm happy to do skincare. I'm happy to style my hair sometimes. All of those things that just, I feel truly enhance beauty. But to say that like doing filler and doing Botox and all that it's enhancing your beauty, I don't know if it is, because it's now changing your face. And like the health benefits and risks and all that is a completely different situation and conversation that maybe I'll get into, maybe I won't. But ultimately, it's like, what role are you playing? And for me, when I sat in that chair, I went, I don't want to contribute to this. And so that was my first choice. And then a year or two went by. I decided to get Botox one more time. I was in California, living my California Carly days. If you guys know, I was like bleach blonde and I was just like finally finding myself again. I feel like I was wearing color again and I was wearing crop tops and I was like feeling hot and beautiful. And like, I always say it was like my era of like my orange, like my sacral and finding my creativity and my sexuality and all of that post kids. And that happened while I was in California. And so my friend, her skin looked amazing. And she's like, oh yeah, just a little bit of Botox. I'm like, okay, cool. So I go to this place. It wasn't Botox. It was like Dysport or something. I don't know the differences. Anyways, and I go in and I walk into this place and I have a looming negative, dark energy around me. And I'm like, oh, you shouldn't do this. You can feel it. This doesn't align with your values. There's something here that's not good. You can feel it. It was like a visceral body reaction. And I sat in the chair and she asked me all these questions and I'm bypassing it, right? And I'm just like, whatever. I'm just gonna like freeze my head because it's fine. Like ignore it. So I go sit in the chair, I freeze my face. And in that moment, I went, I cannot ever come back and do this again. You said this the last time, but you came back and you did it again because you were feeling like you need to be frozen like everybody else because like gotta have perfect skin and like freeze that because oh my gosh, you don't want wrinkles. God forbid I look 30. God forbid. You know, I should probably keep looking 20. But God forbid I have wrinkles showing up, which by the way, I go back and look at photos when I was way younger and I had smile lines then. Like they've been around for like a decade. It's not a problem. They're not getting worse. It's like they've been there in all the pictures when I'm smiling. There were smile lines. And I'm like, why is this something that we want to hide and think is so bad? I don't know. Anyways, so I sat in that chair and I went, you can't do this. You cannot come back. You know that this doesn't align. There's something dark here. And all I can kind of link this to is when you guys probably know the story if you've listened to my podcast. I was at the shopping mall in San Diego outside of Louis Vuitton or Gucci or whatever, one of those stores. And I could feel this like dark cloud. And I went, ooh, okay, there's something dark about materialism and like all these people standing in these lines and like about to spend money on this stuff. Like there's something dark here. There's something not right. And I could feel it through my body. And this is like before I would say I had really embarked on like the spiritual awakening, but I could feel that darkness. And it was the same cloud of darkness that I felt at the Botox place. And so all I can say is like other people may not feel this. Like injectors, like I was thinking about this earlier. Sorry, my throat. I was thinking about this earlier that obviously most injectors probably go into that because they're like, I want to make people feel beautiful. I want to help people feel confident. You feel like you're helping women feel better about themselves. So you feel like you're, you know, serving humanity, you're serving women, you're doing something positive. Same thing with so many women that participate that are like, no, I love it. Like it makes them feel beautiful and confident, all those things. And none of that is bad. But ultimately it comes down to the fact that everyone who's not participating now feels less than. And most of the people who are not participating feel like they now need to go do that thing in order to meet the beauty standard that's being set. And so when I was sitting in that chair and I realized this is dark, what are you doing? Do you want to contribute to this? Okay, two things. If I had a daughter in the future, would I feel good that I'm essentially saying to her, you need to do all this stuff, inject needles, feel the pain of it, inject foreign substances you don't even actually know what they do and the long-term health implications because it hasn't been around that long, which, by the way, sounds a lot like when the doctor's like, no, it's totally safe and effective. What else did they say was safe and effective that we obviously know is not? Okay, so like that's a whole other thing, like for the people who are anti-VAX, but then they're not anti-injection for their face. I'm just like, there's a conflict of interest here within your own integrity, your morals, and your values. Because if you're going to say no to one thing and then not no to the other thing, which are both foreign substances from the same industry, like what? I don't know. I'm just like, how do we say yes to one and not the other? And then I always go back to, okay, I always take the bird's eye view where when something is becoming so mainstream and so everywhere and so normalized, I go, hold on. Because everything that becomes normal and normalized, mainstream, whatever, typically isn't good for us. Let's just be honest. Like a lot of the stuff that becomes trendy and everyone jumps on that people are doing in the long term isn't good for us. And so I just look at it and go, there's no way that there isn't health implications to this long term. There's just no way. You cannot put a neurotoxin that causes botulism, which equals death, in your forehead, close to your brain, and not expect that over time, one time, two time, whatever, your body can process that toxin. It's going to break it down. You have amazing detox pathways in your body that are going to help get rid of it. That's one thing. But if you do it over and over and over and over again, what's not to say that your body's going to finally be like, oh, I'm tired. Like, I'm done. I don't want to keep having to detox this thing. Like, I'm already overburdened from the toxins in our water and the toxins in our environment and the toxins that you're putting on your skin from your shit lotions and the toxins from your makeup and the toxins from everything. And now you're injecting toxins directly into your face. Like, now I have to break down those too. Like, your body's going to eventually, I believe, get tired. And if you think about this, because we could think like, oh, there's no side effects, which we know is not true. There's tons of people who have had awful reactions to it. But like, if there wasn't any side effects, it's like, what if you're low energy all the time because your body's constantly having to process the toxin you keep injecting in your forehead? What if that? And then if you think about it a little further, like I said I might not get into health stuff, but I am. And so I'm like, I think about filler, for example, like all these studies are coming out now. And when they're opening the skin, because a lot of the people who get filler end up chopping their face open to like do a facelift. It's like when they open the skin, it is like paste, like stuck like glue. It's making their fascia. I don't even know all the right terms. Okay. I don't really care about the stuff. You guys know I don't care about the right terms, but the fascia, the tissue, all the stuff that's like under your skin that attaches, it is attaching to like glue. What do you think that is doing for your not only your detox pathways, your lymphatic drainage, like all of those things are going to be impacted. And we know that when they're like, oh yeah, filler just lasts 1 to 2 years. That's not true. It lasts essentially forever. They've yet to see it actually fully break down in someone's face. If anything, it keeps expanding. And hyaluronic acid, for one, it attracts water. So when you put hyaluronic acid in your body, like you drink it or you put it topically, it pulls water. So if you're putting that as an injection that's staying in place, it pulls water. So over time, if it continues to pull water and it's not actually breaking down, that's why you're seeing the big pillow face that they're starting to actually talk about, because that's what's happening. And I truly feel for the women who fell for this. Like they listened to the doctors were telling them it was safe. They believed them because they're like there and they want to look beautiful, and so they're like, okay, great, yeah, let's do it. It looks great. It does look great a lot of the time when you first get it, but then over time, if that keeps happening, then what? And now you're stuck with it. And like, I will never forget, I was getting my hair done. Bless this man. I was getting my hair done, and he worked with a ton of like the Real Housewives of Vancouver. And so I was getting my hair done. I was a lot younger. And I remember him saying to me, Carly, whatever you do, do not get your lips done. Don't put that filler stuff in your face. And I went, why? And he's like, because it doesn't break down. Like they say it breaks down, but like these women are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to break these little molecules out of their face to get rid of them because they're bally and they're lumpy. And I'm sure that was a different filler back then than what they're doing now. But it's just like the implications long term, like, is it worth it? For that quick validation that you're seeking to feel like worthy and beautiful and like match the beauty standard that's out there, to go inject your face, freeze it, get filler, whatever, like to have the big lips so that you can match everyone else around you, to have a frozen forehead so you can match everyone else around you and feel like you meet the societal standard of what we're creating. Like, is it worth it long term? And ultimately, we don't have the results and the impact that it causes to know if it's worth it. And so for me, when I felt the darkness, I was like, okay, do I want to be part of the problem or the solution? And as much as even recently, like I have had the thoughts like, I would love to have a frozen forehead. It looks great. A lot of the time it does look great, but what is the risk? And is it worth the reward? Is it really? Because then I'm sitting there, and this is what I always think, with a platform of women who, and it's not even a big platform, but with women who listen to me, look up to me, follow me. If I go and become part of that, like I'm just making it even more normalized that like that's the beauty standard you should be upholding too. If I have a frozen face and big lips, you're going to probably feel like you need a frozen face and big lips. Like that's just the truth. Same thing if I was to go get, like, I've had so many people ask, like, why haven't you had a breast reduction? Why don't you get like a lift? Why don't you get surgery? Why don't you get da 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 da? The fact, and this is another thing, the fact that people feel it's okay to comment on it. Like it's encouraging other people. Like this is another thing. I have notes too. Maybe I'll look at them, maybe I won't. But the judgment you hold against other people is the same judgment you hold upon yourself. So I don't really have judgment for this. I more see it as like this is really sad that all of these women feel like they need this to be beautiful. And like, I personally, as much as it could look great and I could do all these things, don't want to be part of contributing to making any other female feel like they need to do this stuff too. Like, and that's ultimately when you are participating in this, that's what you're doing. those women that are in your close five, that circle, or the people who follow you on social media, you are making them also feel like they need to do these things too. You go get Botox, your face is frozen. They're like, oh my God, it looks so good. I think I need that too. Do you want to be a part of that? It's another level of consumerism. The same thing that I felt with that darkness at Louis Vuitton, which you guys know I've talked about this. Like I have a weird thing with brand names where I'm like, I would accept it, but I don't value it and don't know if I'll ever buy a designer bag ever again. Honestly, like I just don't see the value. And I feel like, again, I'm contributing to this society of like even just a false definition of what success is. Like to earn money to be able to freeze our face and like hopefully look perfect enough. Because if we look perfect enough, maybe no one will know that like inside is a fucking shit show. I don't know. I'm just like, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing as women? Like why are we participating in it? It's literally like, I don't even know if this is the right term, but like you're almost participating in your own demise. Because it's like, is that even the right term? I don't know. Anyways, it just like came through. I don't even know what I'm saying. I just like ramble and then who knows what comes out of my mouth. But ultimately, it's like if we are participating in this as women, I've said this about 45 times already, but it's like then I just think of the other women that I'm impacting. And so if I feel like I'm not worthy and I'm less than and I'm not beautiful, and that if I go fill my lips, I'll feel a little bit more beautiful because then they'll be a little bigger. And then everyone will be like, wow, you have such nice big lips. Or if I freeze my eye lines and my wrinkles on my forehead so that I can look perfect and beautiful, then people will feel I'm beautiful and I'll be worthy and meet the beauty standard. And this is another thing. This is interesting. This came through my mind as a single person right now, obviously not with a partner, where I went for a little bit, I was feeling like, maybe I need to get all that work done because like then I'll be able to attract the guy. Maybe I need to do all that stuff because then I'll be able to attract him. And like I'll finally call in my partner because I'll have all the stuff that like draws attention to me. And then I went, hold on, whoa, like where is that thought coming from? Because ultimately, if that's what you attract from, is that what you really want? But how crazy that these beliefs are so deeply ingrained that I literally was feeling like I may not be able to find a partner unless I do that thing. And I bet there's a lot of women who feel like they're doing this stuff and they're making these alterations and these changes because they want to be deemed beautiful and worthy. And so they feel at the root of it all, if I do this thing, then I'll be worthy of love. If my lips are bigger, if my wrinkles are gone, if my face looks perfect, if my boobs are bigger, if my butt's bigger, if I get rid of the fat, then I'll be worthy of love. When I do all this stuff, then I'll be worthy of love. Ultimately, that is what it's coming from at the root. I would be shocked to find someone who feels 100% worthy, is 100% conscious, has even worked with plant medicine like multiple times, and is that like an enlightened level, which is rare, obviously, as human beings to get there. But to be moving through the scale of consciousness towards enlightenment, like they're living in love, they're living in joy, they're moving towards enlightenment, let's say, right? That would still want to do this stuff. I just don't think it would be a thing, because ultimately you would feel completely whole, happy, healthy, complete, beautiful, loved just as you are. You would feel like, I don't need any of this stuff. If that ayahuasca ceremony taught me anything, like I've literally been like, oh my God, what do I need outside of me? I don't know. Like, do I need anything? Do I literally even need food? I don't know. Like everything I've ever wanted, everything I've ever wanted to feel is within me. That love that I'm craving, that external validation that I used to run for and crave too. I've been there, you guys. I have been there when I used my body for external validation, when I thought my beauty would get me the right partner and attract them in, when I thought like showing hot pictures online was going to be the thing that attracted the client. Like I have been there. I've also been there where I had no self-love, no self-worth, and thought I was fucking ugly piece of shit, like loser. Like I've had the worst mind, like talking to myself at different phases in my life. Sorry for the swearing if you're listening to this with your kids. I apologize. But I've like, that's how I used to talk to myself. You're ugly. You're a loser. You're too fat. You're disgusting. You're like, the boobs are saggy. They're like, I should just chop them off and I could just make them smaller and I could perk them up like this and all those things. Like I could do that. And then I always come back to my values, my integrity, the impact I want to make in this world and the impact I want to make on women. And do I want to be part of contributing to that? And so I would just challenge you to ask yourself the honest question, like, where, if you've chosen to do this or if you've thought about doing it, because I thought about doing it too, so no shame. Like, I literally, even a few weeks ago, you guys know that I don't stand for it, and I still feel like, oh, should I just get Botox? Like, what am I doing this for? What do I feel like I need to stand up for it for? Why? No one else does. Why don't I just go do it and be like everybody else? And then it's like this little, I don't know, my higher self or like some voice tells me like, no, you literally have to be the example and show people that they don't need to partake in this. And by you choosing to do it, you're just like everybody else. And so do you want to be like everybody else, or do you want to start being a part of what makes people not feel like they have to partake in that? So I haven't done anything except those 2 times I got Botox where my body was like, please stop. This is out of integrity. And anyways, I went on a deep dive last night. Okay, the question I want you to ask yourself. Sorry. My brain goes everywhere. The question I want you to ask yourself, though, is like, what is the root of the energy you're choosing to do this from? Is it truly, because self-love, guys, when you're like, yeah, I do it because I love myself. Bullshit. Bullshit. I do not believe that anyone ever could fully love themselves, feel whole, happy, complete, feel like they're just so worthy and deserving of like anything and everything, and feel like they need some implant or some needle to as a loving choice to themselves and their body. I just don't believe that. That might be a lie that you've told yourself that you believe, like it's an act of self-love and I really enjoy it. I love it. I love the way I look. Sure. But if that's really true and you really do love yourself, why would you be seeking or needing external validation in the first place? You wouldn't be seeking it, because if you truly loved yourself, you would feel whole from within. You wouldn't feel the need of needing someone outside of you to validate you and being like, wow, you're so beautiful. Oh my God, you look so perfect. Oh my God, your face is so perfect. Oh my God, your lips. Oh my God, I love them. Oh my God, your face is like a plastic Barbie. Like, you wouldn't need that. But because you've had that, you seek now like a drug, that external validation. You want it, you crave it. And if you're not getting told that, then you feel worthless, imperfect, ugly. Duckling syndrome comes back all over again. And it's like, that's where it's like, that's another dangerous part, because now you're literally contributing to the thing that's like harming you. You're like, for anyone who is partaking in this cycle, it's like you think that you need to uphold a level of perfection. So you keep chasing that level of perfection. And for me, I'm just like, aren't you tired? Like, for real, are you not tired? Because when I was trying to chase that image of perfection, I was tired. It is exhausting to feel like you need to look perfect, that your makeup's done, that your hair's done, that everyone thinks you look pretty all the time. Like, that's so exhausting to feel like you have to do that all the time. And I would just say, like, aren't you tired? Like, don't, like, you know? Anyways, I want to read my notes and see if there's anything I missed. Yeah. Okay. Here we go. So, yeah. So the self-love part, I already kind of said this. If you loved yourself fully and wholly, why would you worry about the way another perceives you? Ultimately, that's what that is. You want to be perceived a certain way or fit a certain image that you've created or society's created for you of what beauty is. And so you alter yourself to fit in that mold. Now, again, nothing bad or wrong with that, but on a level of consciousness, you're doing things and injecting things that are not you. And ultimately, that's what it is. So it's like, if you have conscious awareness to it and you really loved yourself fully, like, why would you feel like you need to change anything? And I've really felt this lately, especially after watching Mormon Wives, who they claim that they're like God's people and stuff. I'm just like, okay, if you fully believe that you were created in the image of God, you believe that. Do you really think God would be like, yeah, go to that clinic and get all those alterations done on your vagina, on your boobs, on your face? Because like, you're not perfect. So like, I need you to go partake in consumerism of surgery in order to be perfect, because I didn't make you perfect enough. Like, for me, that's a big one. Like, people who are religious and claim that they fully believe in God, but then feel the need to do all this stuff. I'm like, there is such a like breakdown in like that. Like, they don't line up and they don't match. So anyways, that's just something else. And I already talked about that. Yeah. So then it's just like where does it stop? Because I already said that, like a little Botox, it's like, okay, yeah, no problem. It's just a little Botox. But then it goes into like the lip filler and cheek filler and the facelift and the eye lift and the lipo and then the implants and the fat transfer and the chin stuff and the Botox in the jaw, which I don't even know. Like, I don't even know what any of these things are. And then like the chopping the eye and like the chopping the eyes to make them look like cat eye things. Like there's just so much. There's so much. Yeah. Okay. So anyways, where's the choice coming from? Who is it for? Is it out of lack? Is it out of feeling not good enough as you are? And then why are you feeling like you need it? Was it because you saw it in someone else and then now you feel like you need it too? Because ultimately, if we hadn't seen it anywhere, we wouldn't know it existed and we wouldn't feel we needed it. And so that's where I go, if we all just kind of stop consuming it and stop doing it, then everyone else feels like they can stop too. Because the only reason people are still doing this is because they see other people with it, especially on TikTok, like all these girls' faces. I'm like, whoa, it's crazy. But like, there's no movement, there's no lines. The skin looks perfect, their face looks perfect. How are you not going to look at a perfect face and be like, wow, I want that? Like, of course we are. It's the same thing when they airbrushed all the magazines and like we thought that we had to have no cellulite because they had no cellulite, you know? It's like, it's the same thing. When we didn't know that people used fake tanner or fake hair or any of this stuff. And so that we were trying to go and have that standard. Like it's all that, you know? Yeah, okay. Yeah. The only reason unrealistic beauty standards exist is because of our participation in them. And that's where you get to make the conscious choice of what you're choosing or contributing to. And as long as you have full awareness and make that choice, then fair. But without conscious awareness, like, I don't know. And yeah, like I was watching, because someone sent me this page the other day. And so I was looking at it and it said every, like, I guess people get, was it like if they got like 50 units, she was like 50 mice. So if you got 60 units, it's 50 mice. So for every unit of Botox, like a mouse dies. And because ultimately what happens is they inject it in the mouse and it usually kills them from respiratory stuff within 3 to 4 days. And I just went, wow, that's crazy too, because it's like, you're just going into this clinic and thinking like, oh yeah, I might have no wrinkles. But it's like, trace it back. Like, what's the impact of you doing that on the world as a whole? And I've been feeling that a lot lately, even with like, when I buy something, I'm like, okay, I can see the issue of plastic, but look what I just bought that had plastic in it. I can see the issue. Wow, plastic's really the root of like a lot of shit, huh? Us wanting to be plastic, us using plastic, it's like real harmful to the environment. Anyway, yeah, so it's like I started noticing this because like I can see what's happening on this planet and I'm like, oh, like we're just doing things so like out of order and like using materials that like shouldn't be used, and anything foreign and fake and like man-made is just like so bad for the earth, right? And so I started thinking about my own impact with like, if I order on Amazon, like, okay, let's look, like there's a single plastic package in here because I'm ordering it from that place. And like all of the impact that we're having, it's like you have to start looking at, there's no blame here. It's just like, look at your own life and the impact that you are playing in that and the role that you're playing in that thing. And so I brought a lot more awareness to all of this. And so when you think about Botox, for example, it's like, if you care about veganism and like the environment and all these things, and like I really struggle with this, with if you're aligned with a company that is vegan, non-toxic, cruelty-free, yet you're injecting yourself with something that literally kills hundreds of animals in order to just be able to know that you can tolerate that amount of poison, because ultimately that's what it is. It's a toxin. It's a neurotoxin, which is another part for me that I just go, okay, like what do they want to dumb us down with as women? Like to inject a neurotoxin right here. Do you know what's here? Your creative third eye. Do you know how powerful this space is when you think of an energy center? And we're just gonna keep injecting it, especially here. We could never have lines here. So just inject it right here and freeze it. Okay, if we're freezing something and we're paralyzing the nerve and the muscle, don't you think that that's going to create energetic blockages? I don't know. It would just be my assumption. I don't even know where the, like, I don't know the facts. This is just like how I think about it, that how could that not impact your energetic body and like the chakras within this alignment system? How could it not? I don't know. I just feel like there's no way that it doesn't impact that. Okay. In addition to that, when you think about the mice, for example, it's like, okay, if you're vegan, cruelty free, and you and you do care about that stuff and you don't want to use toxic products and all that stuff, but then you're injecting a neurotoxin that's been found to kill people. If you have botulism, like, what is it? Botulism? Is that's what it gets caused, right? I don't know. This is how much I don't even look into it. I just go based on feeling of what feels good and right and what doesn't. And once I had conscious awareness brought to this, it felt like a no for me. And so anyways, ultimately, this is long enough. You guys know my take on it. And I would just challenge you, if you've even made it this far and you're someone who participates in this stuff, like, thank you. This isn't hiccuping. This isn't an attack, because ultimately I feel like we all do it. We all have participated in it innocently, mostly, right? Like, you're not doing it in a way that's like, I'm going to go do this thing to make other women feel less than. No, like, that's not the energy that it comes from at all. We do it for ourselves because we think it'll make us beautiful. And like, it's just a selfish thing that we think about. But ultimately, it's like, if you want to have conscious awareness with anything, you have to think about the impact that you're having. And for me, it was very much like, the impact I'm going to have is make other women feel like they need this too. And I don't want to partake in that. In addition, as I found out about the mice, and like, the albumin or whatever they create is like from humans. And so you got to wonder, like, hey, where's the human stuff that they're getting to create this stuff that you're now injecting in yourself? And then all the poor animals that are dying, to make sure that it's like the toxicity level is safe enough for you to consume without dying. Like, it's a little bit crazy. And then that's not even taking it to the plastic surgery route of like the nutso that's happening there. And I just think about that too, where I'm like, man, like, we're always going to feel inadequate if we keep participating in all this stuff, because there's always something new to do. Like, chop the arm fat off, get it sucked out. Why would you have to work out? Why would you have to figure out why your body is holding so much extra tissue, and like why your body is storing fat in the first place, if you can just chop it off? I don't know, just chop it off. So with that, I just wanted to say, I hope you know that beauty truly, yes, you can be beautiful on the outside. You can fit the beauty standard of others and like look beautiful on the outside. But true beauty, like, it really does emulate from within. And I think it comes from when we're living from our heart, especially as women. Like, when you tap into that, you're going to be beautiful regardless if you have wrinkles or not. And I know I have an old episode that I talked about this, where I just think of like the grandmothers and the wise women and the people who are older than us, who we don't look at them and go, ew, look at all of her wrinkles. Like, we think they're so beautiful. I think of like the Titanic, the old woman at the end, where I'm like, I don't think anyone looked at her like, ew, look at her wrinkles. Like, why didn't she get a facelift and like freeze it? We were like, this is so beautiful and amazing. And so it's like, if we really feel that, right, about people who are 60, 70, 80 and older, why do we have this weird gap between like 25 and 55 or 60, where we feel like we need to like freeze our aging process and look like we're still 20? That somehow it's not acceptable to have those little images that like there is a little bit of aging happening. I don't know. I just think it's like, once you start, where do you stop? And where do you draw the line on what's too much? And yeah, I just know us as women, truly, we have the power to stop all of it. If we stopped consuming it, if we stopped partaking in it, it would end. None of us would feel like we have to chase this image of perfection. None of us would feel like, oh my God, she doesn't have wrinkles, so like I should go freeze my wrinkles because like that looks really good. We wouldn't have that. We would just be like, oh, everyone's kind of aging. Cool. And then the people with the really good skin, you'd be like, what do you do? And then you would buy skincare, or you would do their practices of like facial massage or face taping or whatever people are doing, or like eating nourishing food. You would do things. And like, ultimately for me, I'm like, if something's adding to your health, amazing. But if it isn't and it's taking away from it, like, it's not worth it. All you have when you're 80 is your health. So anyways, I just think about all of that. And I just want women everywhere to feel like they're just perfect just as they are. If you want to enhance your beauty lightly, obviously, if you want to do all this stuff, go for it. It's your choice. But ultimately, it's like, bring conscious awareness to that choice and the impact that you're having on others. And that's really what I wanted to say. So you're beautiful. You don't need it. And if you are tired of it all and like feeling like you have to go do all that stuff because you see everyone else doing it, choose to not partake in it. Take your power back. You don't need to give your power away. You don't need to let all these outside influences of what everyone else is doing take over what you feel in your heart is right for you. So, yeah, thanks so much for listening. If you like this episode, share it. I really wanted to try to speak from my heart, but I know I got a little like uppity there. And I would just say, yeah, it's a topic I think that needs to be talked about more, because we're all kind of going around just like doing the thing that we see everyone else doing without really talking about like, where's the root of that coming from? Because that's what we should be dealing with. Like, why do you feel unworthy? Why do you feel that you lack something? Why are you in an energy of lack in the first place? And where and who made you feel like you weren't beautiful? Because that's an energy, and that's something that you have control over. And I feel as I've done more and more healing work and more things in my life, I ultimately feel like that love that I want from others is created from within. And when I can give that to myself, despite how my hair looks or my skin looks like or anything, it's like, that's what you attract back to you. And yeah, it's just, anyways. Either way, I love you. And I'm not saying that anyone is bad or wrong. And like, we all know some injections look fire. Okay. So I'm not talking shit on it. I'm just saying that if we want that to stop, we need to stop participating. And that is on us. Okay. Love you guys. Thanks so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. Share it if you loved it. And if it struck a chord with you and made you feel a kind of way and like triggered you a little bit, like lean into that. Where is that coming from? And yeah, ultimately, yeah, I don't know what else to say. I'm dilly-dallying now. Anyways, love you guys. Thanks so much. Share. And what was I going to say? I don't know. Subscribe, leave a review. Don't leave a review if you hate me from this one though. But like message me if you want a conversation about it. Okay. Love you guys. Have the best day. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.